Welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Today, my internet keeps going in and out, so please bear with me. Hopefully, I'll be able to stay online. In Matthew 18, verse 6, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Matthew 18, verse 10. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. These verses help me feel a lot better. Proverbs 28, verse 5. Evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. In Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Amen. Thank you. Under copyright statute, under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, and personal use tips a balance in favor of fair use. Well, thanks for coming today. So we're doing the vloggers Ruby Frank in Utah and Jodi Hildebrandt in Utah. But the child abuse case. So without further ado, I will bring the screen up. Yeah, my internet went out on my other computer, so I'm hoping that it's going to be all right. I'm tired of, I won't be able to see some of the comments until I get back on here. I'm sorry. So Ruby Frank was once a popular blogger who gave parenting advice to her millions of followers. But behind the scenes, she was physically tortured and starved at least two of her children. The 41-year-old Utah mother of six, who pled guilty in December to 4 counts of second-degree child abuse, admitted to a slew of horrific acts that involved forcing them to work outside in the sweltering heat without adequate water until they blistered. Can somebody please put in their trigger warning? She tried to convince her children that they were evil and possessed, and that the punishments were necessary to repent. She described the abuse as acts of love. That's not love. Those are not love. The disturbing details were revealed in Frank's statement filed in court last December in support of her guilty pleas, in which she stated she abused. Oh, thank you. Hi, Jackie. Good to see you too. Yeah, this is a horrific case. My other computer started working. You called me a liar. So the disturbing details were revealed in Frank's statement filed in court last December in support of her guilty pleas in which she stated she abused two of her children in Washington County from May 22nd until her arrest on August the 30th. Frank, along with her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt, were arrested in August after Frank's 12-year-old son escaped from Hildebrandt's house and asked a neighbor to call the police while begging for food and water. Thank God he's helping, isn't it? Right. Thank God. The boy appeared to be severely malnourished and had deep lacerations from being tied up with a rope and from his malnourishment, according to court documents. Hildebrandt had allegedly used cayenne pepper and honey directly on his wounds. Oh my goodness! Not his mama, but Hildebrandt. She was supposedly a therapist. She used cayenne pepper and honey on his wounds? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I can understand honey, it's a healing factor, but cayenne pepper, don't you know that's going to burn? Frank admitted in her statement that her actions involved the physical torture of her son. Here she is, right here. In the plea deal statement, Frank further admitted to forcing the boy into long hours of physical tasks working outside in the summer, sorry, without shoes or adequate water. He received repeated and serious sunburns that blistered after he was forced to stand in the direct sunlight for several days. The boy was denied sufficient food, and when given food, he was given very plain meals, while others in the house ate regular and more flavorful meals, according to the plea agreement. So in minutes, you'll see her TikTok stuff and all, and I hope y'all go and make sure, even if she, maybe it's closed, I don't know. It made millions on YouTube and tortured them in real life. It was it was all about the money, yeah. Poor kids. And then the husband, he should be reprimanded too for allowing it, not doing nothing about it, right? He needs to be charged as well. Both of them's, both of the men in that relationship. Frank also admitted to kicking her son while and cutting off oxygen by placing her hands over his mouth and nose. Yeah, how can the dad not know the lacerations, the food being served to him? How would he not know? You know, the blisters all over him. How would he not know? He said like he had to be a part of it too. Why is he not arrested? Because usually most spouses are arrested if somebody does not go in contact, at least when it's being done. Ropes were used to tie together handcuffs that secured his hands and feet as he lay on his stomach, lifting his arms and legs off the ground and injuring his wrists and ankles, the plea agreement stated. Frank further admitted that her son was kept isolated from other people and denied all forms of entertainment, including books, notebooks, and electronics. Similar abuse was inflicted on Frank's 9-year-old daughter, she admitted, writing in her statement that the girl was forced to work outside, run on dirt roads barefoot for extended periods of time, and go without food and water. And yet, y'all supposedly were Christians? People like y'all are supposed to be an example of how Christians are supposed to act. People don't want to be a Christian when they see people like y'all and hear your horrendous stuff that you do, the kids that you torture. Some people torture in the name of God. Yeah, this punishment, that ain't punishment, it's abuse, it's torture. I don't understand how that was not noticeable on YouTube videos. I think some of the people were complaining about, were they? Uh, Jackie, was some of the people complaining? Or she didn't have them on video? Maybe she had the other kids on video, not him. I don't know. I hadn't seen her actual videos. She was also repeatedly told she was evil and possessed. The punishments were necessary for her to be obedient and repent, and these things were being done to her in order to help her, the plea agreement said. This reminds me of that other case where the brother and sister ended up missing and ended up dead because they were basically saying that they were of the devil. Y'all remember that? People complained about it. Wow. Well, you were not possessed and you're not evil. They were the evil ones. The girl was convinced what her mother said was true, the agreement added. That means she could be suicidal later on, y'all. The good people reported them. Thank God. Look at her, like she hates whatever sentence is being done to her. Look, and it has no sympathy for you. Y'all remember how I told you my stepmom, when I was a teenager, she gloated about me being 4 years old, where she held my head down in a sink full of water until I lost consciousness. To understand how that little boy understands it all too well. Frank pleaded guilty to 4 of the 6 charges of aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony originally filed against her in exchange for the other two being dismissed. They filed against her in exchange for the other two being what? So she pled guilty 4 of the 6 charges of second-degree felony originally filed against her. Wow, wow. I think y'all should prosecute to the full extent of the law. Wow, 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 wow. With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty, she said as she pled guilty to her final count in December. Your deepest regret is that you got caught and you're in jail. That's your deepest regret. It's not sorrow for your family and for your children about guilty. No, it's sorry. You just hate the fact that you got to face the repercussions of what you did to these kids. Because if you really gave a dang, you would have stopped it a long time ago. Wow, bless his heart. I hope they don't never turn to suicide as the answer, with all the stuff that they were told. I know years later I kept attempting suicide because a lot of this stuff does affect you all throughout your life. It still affects you. We need to keep them in our thoughts and our prayers for these kids to be strong and God to keep them from danger. According to her plea agreement, Hildebrandt admitted to knowingly inflicting and allowing another adult to inflict serious physical injuries upon 2 young children living at her home. So she was even allowing them to abuse. If you're a Christian, you go like this and you teaching. Oh, did you not remember that? Look at here, girl. The Bible actually says right here. Let me go back up to that Bible verse, people. I know my Bible verses. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Instead, look, you tried to basically drown him, cutting off his air supply. You're the one that needed a millstone tied around your neck and thrown into the depths of the sea. Excuse me, excuse me. I'm getting angry about this. Y'all know me. Y'all get angry. So look at her. Look at her hating what's going on. But she loved it on YouTube and everywhere, didn't she? She loved it when she knew what she was doing on YouTube and getting that money and probably TikTok and other things too. Instagram, possibly. This is Jodi Hildebrandt right here. This is the other girl. She admitted that she physically forced Frank's 9-year-old daughter to jump into a cactus multiple times, to run barefoot on dirt roads for extended periods of time, and kept her isolated from others. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Can we get her to sleep on a bed of cactus at night? Can they please do that to her as part of her punishment? To Hildebrandt's punishment? Can we please get a whole bed of cactus and let her sleep on that? The former therapist also admitted to helping Frank torture her youngest son. Both Frank and Hildebrandt have confessed to telling the two children that they were evil, possessed, and needed to be punished to repent. The boy was told that everything being done to him was an act of love, according to the plea agreements. It's like my sister, y'all. I told you she was a preacher, right? She told me all the stuff that happened to me was God's punishment to me being a bad girl. So it was a labor of love because I was so bad. So these kids are being told basically the same kind of crap. It's not a labor of love. It's a labor of hate. You never seen in the Bible as an example of Christ doing that to kids. Instead, Christ called the kids unto him. The innocence of the child he loved. The women who have been behind bars since their arrest will learn their fate at their sentencing on February 20th, which we'll get into that in a few minutes. They each face a minimum of 4 years to a maximum of 60 years in prison. The charges of child abuse were brought to light after years of allegations and concerns by viewers of the YouTube channel 8 Passengers. Y'all can look it up. I bet it's been closed down now. Has it been closed down now, Jackie? Where Frank and her husband gained a public profile by documenting the day-to-day lives of their family and sharing parental advice. Why would anybody want advice from you? Why? You seem like you needed to take people's advice. 3 months after Frank's arrest, her husband filed for divorce at the 4th District Court of Utah. He has constantly denied any knowledge of the alleged child abuse, as he was estranged from his family for some time up until the arrest. So he's estranged from his family. Did she basically kick him out of the house or something because he was estranged from him? However, many viewers became concerned about the couple's strict parenting style shown in their videos, such as withholding food and Christmas presents from their children as punishment. Yeah, he had to know. He had to know because the child abuse did not just begin then. It didn't just been a couple months. Somebody just don't all of a sudden just start decide that they're going to start abusing their child. Franco also made her son Chad sleep on a beanbag for an extended period of time as punishment for pulling the prank on his brother. However, she did claim to Business Insider at the time that this sleeping arrangement was Chad's choice instead of sharing a room with his younger brother. Well, I know a lot of kids that would have loved to sleep in a sleeping bag, so that's not as bad of a punishment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Thanks for alerting me to her too. Their actions on the channel prompted viewers to create an online petition in 2020 after they saw this incident and other examples of harsh punishments, prompting child services to be called. The channel was eventually deleted, but Frank continued to share parenting advice alongside Hildebrandt in videos under the name of Hildebrandt's Therapy Company Connections. You see that, Jackie? So they shared parenting advice alongside Hildebrandt in videos under the name of Hildebrandt's Therapy Company Connections. And she's a therapist? Okay. So that's that on that page, but I got more to show y'all in a minute. What we know about the mommy blogger accused child abuse. Here's the two people. Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Frank is on the right. Utah mommy blogger Ruby Frank was once best known for her now defunct YouTube channel, 8 Passengers, on which she documented family life with her husband and their 6 children. Oh, so it was documented on there. Whoa. Then in December, she pled guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. News of Frank's guilty plea came roughly 3 months after she and her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt were arrested and slapped with a suit of charges after Frank's malnourished 12-year-old son escaped from a window of Hildebrandt's home and showed up at a neighbor's door asking for food and water. The neighbor called police, who in their affidavit later described the boy as emaciated. He allegedly had open wounds on his body and duct tape wounds around his ankles and wrists. Investigators also found Frank's 10-year-old daughter in Hildebrandt's home. Wow. Similarly malnourished. According to police, both children appeared to be in her direct care with Frank's knowledge. And she's a therapist? At the time, the children were taken to the hospital and put under the care of Utah's Department of Child and Family Services along with their 2 minor siblings. Frank and Hildebrandt, meanwhile, were initially charged with 6 counts each of felony child abuse. In a statement following their arrest, the Washington County Attorney's Office in Utah accused both women of causing or permitting serious injury to the children via a combination of multiple physical injuries or torture, starvation or malnutrition that jeopardizes life, and causes severe emotional harm. Crimes that carry up to 15 years in prison and a fine up to $10,000 per count. KUTV reports that 2 of Frank's charges were dropped as a result of her plea agreement. That's not right. That's not right. She don't need no plea agreement. But viewers of 8 Passengers had accused Frank of child abuse long before she was taken into custody, citing cruel parenting techniques like withholding food as punishment. News of Frank's arrest last year was met with relief from her sisters, fellow parenting influencers Ellie Meacham, Julie Griffiths DeRue, and Bonnie Holcomb, who said in a joint Instagram statement that the arrest needed to happen. Okay, so if they're video recorded, the daddy's going to look at them. The daddy's going to, if he's really caring about the kids, he will watch the videos if he was estranged. He'll be watching them online and he'll see that his kids were done that way. The kids were starving. They eat their lunch box before lunch at school. School would call her and ask where the kids' lunch was. She then had to go to school with more lunch. The kids got punished. Poor kiddos. I think I need to go here and I need to go back over here right quick and find the trigger warning thing right here label. Okay, so I'll do that right quick. It said, but viewers, of which we read them, Julie Griffiths, Drew, and Bonnie, thank y'all for standing up and doing this. Frank's eldest and estranged daughter, Sherry, shared a similar sentiment on social media. Finally, she wrote by Instagram story on August 30 after her mom's arrest per insider. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. As part of the plea agreement, CBS News reports that Frank agreed to testify against Hildebrandt. We are pleased that Mrs. Frank have accepted responsibility for her criminal actions and that justice is being served to the extent possible in this type of situation. Washington County Attorney Eric Clark said in a statement after Frank's guilty plea below, everything we know. But wasn't it on video as well about Hildebrandt, Herm, and the kids as well? That's all the evidence you need because they willingly recorded all that. You wouldn't have needed her talk against Hildebrandt. You did your research, you would have been able to see it, right? Without offering her any kind of plea deal. So I think that's horrible that y'all ended up making a plea deal about that when it's evident enough. Do your jobs, do the research. They're the ones that put their own stuff against them. You had all the evidence right there. What's the problem? Why did y'all need to end up getting her to do that? This is so wrong. So wrong. Y'all need to do your job and y'all can do the research. You maybe didn't want to spend the time, but how are you going to build a bigger case against it, them doing that unless you watch the videos yourself to fully understand what was done? Frank launched 8 Passengers in 2015 and used her channel to chronicle life with her husband, Kevin Frank, a former engineer and professor at Brigham Young University, along with a couple 6 children, Sherry, Chad, Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve. Frank used her platform to discuss parenting and share snippets of everyday activities, including driving with the kids and footage of family dinners. But viewers had long suspected the vlogger of something more nefarious. Allegations that Frank was abusing her children circulated widely in 2020 when Chad revealed he'd had his bedroom taken away for playing pranks on his brother and had been sleeping on a beanbag chair for 7 months for punishment. Wow. So she lied about it. She lied. She said, well, he wanted his own room anyway. No. Some videos show Frank penalizing her kids by withholding food. Others show her threatening them with losing the privilege of eating dinner and arguing that her 6-year-old daughter should go hungry because she forgot to bring her packed lunch to school, per the Post. A TikTok of our travel 8 Passengers footage that circulated after Frank's arrest shows her ordering her children and nephews to get in line to eat a single banana. And her nephews as well? To eat one banana? Wow. I love that I can talk to my nephews that way, Frank can be heard saying. Wow. In 2020, thousands of 8 Passengers viewers signed an online petition calling for an investigation into Frank, prompting a Child Protective Services visit. Business Insider reports the case was closed because the claims were unsupported. What? Unsupported? Y'all see that? The system failed these kids. The claims were unfounded, y'all. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So it hadn't been for the kid actually escaping out that window, he would probably be deceased right now. What people aren't understanding is that we give our children choice in everything, Frank told the outlet in an interview at the time, pushing back against the allegations and accusing naysayers of taking videos out of context. Frank ultimately stopped posting videos to 8 passengers after further allegations of mistreatment from the viewers. The channel had over 2 million subscribers before it was deleted in 2023. Wow. Oh, well, well. She was given the children a choice. No, you weren't. You weren't giving them a choice not to put your head underwater trying to drown them, basically cutting off oxygen supply. You didn't give him a choice because I'm sure he didn't want to be handcuffed to his feet and his hands and then tied with ropes and everything. I'm sure he wanted food in his stomach and the sister wanted food in her stomach. I'm absolutely sure and positive about that. So how dare you say, oh, they had a choice. They chose the abuse that you did to them? Excuse me? Excuse me. What a liar. Sorry, y'all. I get emotional about this. Following the 8 pastors' fallout, Ruby Frank joined Jodi Hildebrandt's cult-like venture, Connections. After the backlash against 8 pastors, Frank began working with Hildebrandt, a life coach and counselor, for her platform, Connections. The site/YouTube channel advertised itself as a support group for moms that helps treat those lost in the darkness of a distortion, and Frank signed on as a mental health coach. The two frequently appeared together in connection videos, advertised parenting classes, and ran the joint Instagram account Moms of Truth. Some critics labeled that venture a cult for its damaging and authoritarian teachings, directives that parents shouldn't love their children unconditionally. What? Seriously? For example, in a theory that children do not deserve privacy. They do deserve privacy, taking a bath, da 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 da. But parents need to take a hold of their online activity. Other than that, per Insider, the two women also used the platform to spew racist, ableist, and transphobic remarks. Wow. Additionally, the Salt Lake Tribune reports that the Utah clinical mental health counselor license board put Hildebrandt, a porn addiction therapist, on an 18-month probation in 2012 after she allegedly discussed a patient's case file with Mormon church elders without her permission. What? Well, statute of limitations right there. YouTube took Connections down after the woman's arrest. Now, however, if this patient went and said that he was SAing some of the members of the church, right? You're supposed to call the cops. You're supposed to tell other people, and you're supposed to let people know. Why are you just letting the case file with the Mormon church elders? I think she was a part of the Mormon, and she was discussing it with her own church. It's very crazy. Very sad and sickening, ain't it? Somebody's slamming doors. Guess y'all hear that. Both Ruby Frank and Jodi Hildebrandt are currently in custody. Arrest records obtained by CBS News state Frankie's 12-year-old son was put on medical hold due to deep lacerations from being tied with rope. Oh, he chose that? You said you gave the children a choice. And a police statement indicates that a search of Hildebrandt's home found evidence consistent with markings on the boy's body. Both women were denied bail and remain in custody owing to the severity of the injuries. inflicted upon Frank's two children. Per the Post, the police officer who responded to the incident said in an affidavit that Frank recorded a video in Hildebrandt's home 2 days before her arrest, suggesting she was aware of the abuse, malnourishment, and neglect taking place there. An attorney for Kevin Frank attempted to distance himself from the abuse allegations, claiming he is distraught over them and has lived separately from his wife for the past 13 months. We've been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this and so glad that they finally decided to step up. Sherry Frank wrote on her Instagram story, per the New York Times. Kids are safe, but there's a long road ahead. Following the arrest, neighbors claim they have been trying to get authorities involved for months. Like around here, I tried to get the cops notice and everything and all. They turned that away. Oh, the person's mental. So we go ahead and let them threaten to rape everybody, threaten to hurt the kids, walk around naked outside, lay on the front porch naked with the school buses going by, all that kind of stuff they were allowing in my area. Police reports appeared to back up Sherry's claims. According to NBC, both she and a neighbor called 911 asking officers to check on the children. Sherry apparently told the operator that she was concerned about her siblings' health and safety, while the neighbor reported that Frank was leaving her kids home alone for days at a time. For days at a time? Ah. So should she not be in trouble also for abandoning the other two kids? In a separate conversation with NBC, an unnamed neighbor claimed that multiple adults in the community had been trying to get the Utah Division of Child and Family Services involved for over a year, having noticed Frank's long absences. I'm really angry because I spoke up, other people spoke up. Exactly, that's what I'm angry about, speaking up and nothing being done too. I know how you feel. This boy shouldn't have had to wait and climb out a window to get food. If people knew the amount of tears and time spent talking with law enforcement and CPS over the year, I want people to understand that. And I want those kids to know that because I think they thought they were abandoned. The system abandoned you kids. It was not the neighbors, it was not the people around you. It was your mom, that lady, CPS, probably police officers in that area. The Springfield Police Department told NBC that officers did show up at Frank's home to investigate, but their attempts by the Department of Child and Family Services to contact the kids proved unsuccessful because the kids wouldn't come to the door. Well, if you know the kids were at home, I know you officers can go ahead and come in if you got enough information to know that these kids are in danger. You get kind of like an order from the judge and you make your way. How do you not know if these kids were in there dying or tied up or chained up or whatever? At a shelter hearing in September, Ruby Frank attempted to divert blame to her minor children, alleging that one of them is sexually abusive. What? Seriously? On September 7th, Frankie video conferenced into a shelter hearing from a Utah jail to determine custody of her four minor children. And an exclusive Daily Mail reported that Frank used that time to deflect blame for her alleged behavior onto her kids. They did it. They're the reason. They're the reasons. It's their fault. I'm an adult. They're a kid, but no, it's their fault, not mine. It's their fault I pushed their head down underwater. It's their fault I made them blister in the sun. It's their fault I didn't give them food and water. Oh, it's all their faults. You were the one that decided to have these kids. The kids didn't come on their own. She claimed that one had confessed to abusing 20 other children, including a sibling, cousins, and neighbors. Well, you know what? You made him into a monster basically by abusing him. There's ways to go about it without doing that. And he's showing the anger that you exhibited to him. Who knows? She could be lying about that as well. She's looking for an excuse, right? Frank did not provide evidence for her allegations. See, she didn't provide evidence. But accordingly to the Mail, Judge Schwarzer Bazell told the courtroom that Frank's purportedly abusive child would need to be placed in a home with no other children. In October, Bazell ordered the custody case closed to the public, saying in a statement that the court could not provide a fair and impartial process without adequate safeguards to shield the children from the intrusive effects of media coverage related to the case. Ruby Frank and Jodi Hildebrandt have allegedly suffered medical issues while in jail. According to jail records, which people purportedly reviewed, both Frank and Hildebrandt were transferred out of general population and placed under medical observation shortly after being detained. Frank allegedly moved to the observation block on September the 8th to only return to her usual place later on in the weekend. Well, Hildebrandt's attorney claimed in court filings that she experienced a life-threatening medical issue resulted in her hospitalization for several days. It's not immediately clear what that may have happened, though Hildebrandt's lawyer used her supposed malady to lobby for an expedited detention hearing. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And the thing is, they wanted medical attention when they weren't feeling good. Do you see that? They wanted the care, the utmost care. They didn't like being sick or something like that. But you didn't have no concern for your kids. You caused them to be ill in so many ways. You did it. Jodi Hildebrandt's niece came forward accusing her aunt of severe emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse. So she goes like that and shows that Jodi Hildebrandt also abused the niece. I hope she got in trouble for that as well. At the Ruby Frank shelter hearing, Jessie Hildebrandt, Jodi Hildebrandt's niece, came forward to Salt Lake City based news station KUTV and shared their own experiences living with their aunt over a decade ago. Jessie, who uses they them pronouns, alleged the self styled life coach subjected them to severe emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse and accused them of being a sex porn addict addicted to masturbation. They also said the therapy Jodi administered to them included barring them from using tampons or having privacy in a bathroom. Hi there, Mel. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. Can you believe that? Barred them from using tampons, any feminine products, see? And having privacy in the bathroom. That's just wrong. She wanted to make my life so uncomfortable that it would force sin out. This continuously got worse and worse, Jessie said, accusing Hildebrandt of duct taping their mouth, blindfolding them, and telling them they were too dangerous to be around other people, resulting in isolation periods of up to 12 hours a day. Jessie said they internalized their aunt's teachings to the point that they became afraid of themselves. I was forced to sleep outside in the snow, they recalled, if someone spoke to me directly. If I wasn't wearing duct tape on my mouth, I just had to stare at them and not respond. Had to hang that up. Jesse also noted that Jodi has also had support from the Mormon Church, even though people have spoken out against her. Wow, she had support? We have a culture of not believing children and not trusting children. Children trust their parents, and their parents trust the church. In her plea agreement, Ruby Frank admitted to smothering her son underwater. The disgraced momfluencer confessed to a slew of abuses against her children, including binding her son's feet with handcuffs, kicking him while wearing boots, and holding his head underwater while smothering his mouth and nose. In a plea agreement obtained by CBS News, Frank had attempted to persuade her son that he was evil and possessed, and could avoid punishment by obeying her, evidently telling him the abuses she inflicted upon him were acts of love, according to the agreement. Frank also admitted to committing similar abuses against her 9-year-old daughter, forcing her to run barefoot on dirt roads and perform manual labor outdoors without adequate food and water. In December, a lawyer for Frank claimed in court that the abuse was influenced by a relationship counselor who had contributed to her distortedly sense of morality, an apparent reference to Hildebrandt. You cannot just blame the therapist. You cannot. There's got to be a reason your husband left you, too. Frank appeared in court on December 18th, shackled and wearing white and gray jail clothing as she pled guilty to her first three charges, according to KUTV. With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and children, guilty, she said in response to her charge. But she's not sorry. She is not sorry because she knew what she was doing and she continued to do it. There was all the YouTubers that tried to help, that tried to tell, and yet they just continued on. Ruby Frank has been sentenced to up to 60 years in prison. In February, Frankie received a sentence of up to 60 years in prison, with each of her 4 counts of aggravated child abuse carrying a 1 to 15-year sentence. Utah uses indeterminate sentencing, meaning that after 1 year in prison, the rest of her sentence will be determined by the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. Hildebrandt received the same sentence. Wow. I am so speechless on this. I'm going to roll on up. This is 2 people here again. Ruby Frank and Jodi Hildebrandt. Don't listen to any of their advice, you people. Don't listen to their advice. Okay, I'm looking for something right here. When I clicked on this right here, to up to 60 years in prison for concentration camp-like child abuse. Okay. Former family blogger Ruby Frank and her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt were sentenced to 4 to 60 years in prison on Tuesday for what the prosecution described as concentration camp child abuse. Eric Clark and Frank's children regularly, Eric Clark said Frank's children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment. Had the older of the children not had the courage to run away and ask a neighbor to call the police, heaven only knows how much longer he could have survived in that situation, he added. Frank told Judge Walton that she was under the influence, of Hildebrandt, who was sentenced on the same child abuse charges. The 2 women will serve their sentences consecutively. The mother of 6 was once a YouTube sensation, drawing in millions of subscribers to her channel, where she offered parenting advice, but her reputation unraveled when she and Hildebrandt were arrested in August 2023 for abusing her children. It came after one of Frank's sons escaped Hildebrandt's home and fled to a neighbor's home, called 911. The malnourished boy said Hildebrandt put cayenne pepper and honey on their wounds that were caused by being tied with a rope for an arrest warrants. So thank you so much for having this out there. This is absolutely crazy. You can drop the link in the chat for everyone to copy and paste it. Called Swoop. Yeah. A lot of times when I try to share the other YouTube channels, try to play it, sometimes it don't want to play for me. Ruby Frank herself admitted it, everything on her 8 Passengers channel. Yeah. She admitted it, but then she tried to end up she blamed her kids. Then she blamed that other lady, Hildebrandt. She admitted to doing it, but she acts like she's not an adult. It's everybody else's fault. She still didn't take responsibility. And they had all the evidence right there available on the videos of what they did. Is that the one you're talking about right there, Jackie? I wish it would let me put it in there. I mean, but here's how it is right here. Petty University. Is that the one you're talking about? Could y'all please give a link to Mel's channel too? And if y'all have a channel, I want to sponsor y'all, put y'all's things on here as well. Because she was caught, she placed blame on her children and ex-husband. Wow. So I'd like for y'all to be able to be presented and put your links there to your YouTube channels. Please follow my friends here. They're awesome people. And there's Mel's. And there's, yeah, that's awesome. Thank y'all so much for everything that y'all are doing. Yeah, that's Mel's channel link up here, yes. Let's see that. On YouTube, which I'm sure will have the link for y'all be easy to click on it and everything. This is sick, sadistic. I do not understand why they could not do anything, and they kept saying there was not enough evidence at YouTube. Here is our bucket list. This is her channel right here. Follow her. Please like and subscribe to her as well. Jackie, is this one right here yours? Thank you so much. If somebody wants to come up in a box, I could give you a link. If you want to come up and talk about it. Does anybody want to get up here? Other about Ruby? Oh, okay. You're quite welcome. This is sorry excuse for a human being. You know, she's that kind of abuse and the way the boy was emaciated. Do you want to come in and chat? Okay, let me, uh-oh, let me invite. Okay, I'll drop the link. Copy. There's the link right there. I like everybody's input and insight into this. It's always better. I always hate hearing my voice. So we do have trigger warning going across the bottom of the screen. And you know that if somebody was that horrific. Hey there.
Hey there, darling. I'll shut my camera off now that you know that it's me. Okay, don't.
Okay. But they should be able to see you right now. So
Yeah, yeah, I'll put my camera off though because I'm not looking too good today. I've not been out the house. Been bad weather.
you're a beautiful lady.
So are you?
Oh, thank
Yeah, so
you.
this so this case is crazy, isn't it?
Very much so. I was hearing it, just the name so many times, and I never looked into it because there was just so much other going on that I was looking into. And then some just told me, go ahead and look into that. And, I looked into it and I was shocked.
Yeah, it's been going on for a good few months. One of the other channels that I'd showed you yesterday, Josh, he keeps an eye on all them family vloggers and exposes them, you know, basically because the kids should never really be on the internet without their consent, but they're just put on the internet, put on them YouTube channels, and they make money. There's another one that Josh does. Um, the family adopts kids, but they've got that many kids that they're looked after right enough, but they're just used to make money on the YouTube,
Right.
which is all wrong.
Can you hit comments on your, over there at StreamYard? You see comments right there?
Yeah.
Hit that, then you can see people saying things to you.
All right, brilliant. Yeah, hi there, Bucket. We love you too, Bucket. Even although you've got holes in it, we love you.
All the love from Bucket just seeps out the hose and it just goes, dispenses everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that they got caught in the end. Well, the little boy, well, young lad, managed to escape and get his brothers and sisters anyway to safety and away from it all. But it'd been going on for a long time.
Yeah,
But
they were saying it's been going on for like 6 months or whatever, but according to the neighbors, that it's been over a year and stuff like that. They were reporting it, and they
yeah,
did nothing. So,
yeah,
like I said, she cannot blame the other girl, because this has been going on prior to the other lady.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, but sometimes we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes in these family vloggers. Most of them would never harm their children or do anything, Most of it's just innocence, and some people do want to show their children, but then the ones that are making the money, and then they constantly go on shopping sprees and buy all their kids everything. And it's like, what are the kids like that are watching these people? Do they want everything as well? Sometimes it's no good for children to see, that kind of extravagance that goes on, because some of them get big birthday parties and, big Christmas presents and, it's usually ends up, it's just to get a video, a vlog and to get money made off it, because some of them get hundreds of thousands of views, on Christmas Day and that, and it's unbelievable.
Yes.
It's was it child exploitation?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if I hope it don't kick you off. I was going to tell you you could put the link for Josh if you want to down here as well because he is really good. You got me
Yeah, I like
start following
watching
him
him.
now.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He does do a little bit of swearing, but he does it in good taste. Well, not in good taste, but you know what I mean. He's not like cursing all the time, but he just gets angry with it. But he is quite funny, but he does take it serious. What he does, I've followed him for about 5 or 6 years. That's how I sort of
Okay.
came across all these. How YouTube? Well, it's not YouTube. It's the parents that get them channels that exploit their kids, and it's wrong.
Exactly. It's very wrong. It's for the parents to just go like this and then they want to offer advice on rearing children. I don't think anybody needed their advice.
No, I think it was the wrong way. Yeah, they said that they were Mormons, um, and they were trying to teach them the Mormon way or something, and it's like, okay, again, that Mormons and that have got a bit of a strange lifestyle or whatever. But I think if they were trying to just follow in the steps of Jesus, I think they were a way off the steps of Jesus, because what they were doing to their children was horrific, you know.
Wow.
That
Yeah,
wasn't like
it's
repenting your sins or that, my God, your children have to learn first before, you know, it's pretty sad.
and I know when they're Mormons how the Mormon church help each other. So if they had any kind of problem whatsoever in feeding the children or anything, the Mormon church would have stepped up and helped out. And I'm
What?
not going like this. I'm not going to say, the negative behind the Mormon and stuff. I'm just telling you, firsthand.
Yeah.
I had a friend that I lived with her and her husband for a little while I did housework and stuff because they were in their later 60s at the time. And
Uh,
so they were Mormons, and the Mormon people come in there quite often, at least, and keep tabs and close contact
keep
with
an
each
eye
other.
on.
You know,
Yeah,
so it's like,
yeah,
how did all this escape them as well? Or
yeah. God knows what happened, but at least none of the children died, and they're going to get a better. I don't think they'll ever want to see a camera stuck in their face ever again. So, you know.
they might not even want school pictures. I
I know. I know, you
think
never know.
I have trouble too still today because there'll be some people let me take a picture of you, and I'm like, They're saying, but you're pretty. I go, so what? But
Yeah,
now I go back and I wonder why, and then it's like, yeah, because the child pornography and the stuff that they forced me into. I don't want the cameras poking at me.
yeah, exactly. You
So
shouldn't
yes, it
have
does
to
affect
go
the
about.
kids when you're being exploited in that way. And anyway,
Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, it's quite hard for children to get away from cameras nowadays, especially in the lifestyle that we lead. But I think kids are going to have to step up and speak out. If they don't want it in their face, they don't want it. It's different from when we were younger, when we had a camera. And you had to put the spool in and then take it to the photographer guy to get. It took 2 weeks before you got your photos. Remember them days?
yeah. So evidently, though, when she was with these kids are living with their mom, they could not say anything about what they wanted or what they didn't want. They're so volatile and vile towards them two oldest kids, and it makes you wonder what other kind of things she might have did to the little ones that they did not have to face repercussions for. But like the neighbors have said, that they called the cops on numerous occasions because she would leave them there for long periods of time without any kind of adult supervision.
Yeah, that's pretty grim. Well, saying that they were left alone, at least they were getting peace. But as kids shouldn't be left alone. There was a video that I watched. Um, was it today or yesterday? Can't remember. But you got to see what their house looked like because I'd never really watched them because I just usually watch Josh, and because he keeps you up to date. But I was watching a video that somebody else had done, and you should see their house and like their basement. They had a basement and then another basement, but the basement was just like a garage and it was all white. And then they said that they had a safe room, but it wasn't a safe room. It was where they were locking up their children. They had a bed in there and it was like a wee sink. It was actually just like a prison cell, really. But their house was like pretty big, massive, fancy. But the kids were kept in the basement, and it was just wow,
Where they had
wow.
kids in the basement there?
Yeah, yeah, they tied them up in the basement.
That had to
Uh,
be cold, man.
yeah, I don't what is that state? Is that a warm state? Was it Utah that they come from?
Right, Utah. Yes.
What kind of weather does that state get? Is it quite hot or is it seasonal or
I think they've probably been having some cold, snowy weather, depending on
right?
what
So that
parts
is
of
quite
Utah.
it'd be quite cold up there, right? So that would have been really torture for the kids, you know,
With the heat,
unbelievable.
I think with the heat too, no matter where you're at, because I don't know if a lot of other people noticed too that even in the north they had sweltering heat last year. Uh,
Right.
can you imagine being barefoot and then not and still going outside and having to work outside, staying outside and getting sunburnt like that, not being able to get no food or water or anything.
Yeah, it's
I,
unimaginable.
but one
That
thing that got me, it said it took a couple of days of being out there like that for him to get sunburnt like that. But in the South, you get sunburnt blistered one day.
yeah. Yeah, if we go to Europe, we just need to go to Portugal, and the sand is too hot to stand on. It's like so you could imagine what concrete is. Especially well, Europe, America is hotter than what Europe is. But if we go to Europe, we've got to wear like our sandals on our feet because the sand gets really, really hot, burns your
Right.
feet.
So you can imagine,
So,
y'all ever been to the beach and how hot it is on the sand?
yeah,
Oh man, that's really sweltering. But dirt gets pretty hot in itself too.
yeah. But the mental torture in that as well, especially see, a lot of them children that do those family vloggers, well, the family vloggers that use the children, they don't have a proper life. I suppose they have friends when they go to school, but could you imagine even your life being on public display and one mistake and that child could get bullied? You know what I mean? It's the psychological um, damage is coming all ways. Again, it's targeting that child, because they'll be
Yes.
jealous of the children because they get things or whatever, or they'll get bullied because maybe their mum or dad will make a joke of them on the camera, and it should have never been put up. There needs to be something done
And,
drastically, I think, to
and
safeguard the children.
you might have the support from, a lot of the neighbors and such that try to turn in and help. But then there might be other like members from the church are really good friends of the parent, the women that might even ostracize the kids and everything. So I'm hoping and praying that they're not going to be bullied by these percent people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I just hope that the children, you know, will get the proper support and, you know, medical attention, especially for their mental health, because they might not, you know, to be told that you've been doing things wrong all your life, that, you know, and getting punished for it, they'll be scared to make themselves progress through life, if you understand that, you know, they'll maybe doubt themselves, you know,
Right. I know how that
mental.
is. Would me being having experience with that too from my past.
Yeah,
You
it
doubt
does have.
yourself. It's still today. I find problem with that. Here I am, what 61 year old, and it's been a long time since I was raised around all that. But still, at times I go, see, God, I did deserve it. I am a mistake. I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. It still comes to me, even at 61 years old. At times, it still comes and slaps me in the face. So
Yeah,
feel for these kids. Seriously.
yeah, it's it's horrific, you know. I'm just going to make a cup of coffee. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. It's horrendous too with like we said about the cactus. The minute boy, or the girl getting a cactus. Um, so I'm like, how about making that adult lay in a bed of cactus?
Yeah, what was the story about the cactus? She had to sit on it or something, or
I think,
stand on it.
if I wasn't mistaken, I have to look back in here, right here. I'm trying to look it up about the cactus ordeal. And I'm looking back over the page here. So, does anybody remember what it said about the cactus? I thought it was Hildebrandt or somebody. One of them making the little girl, I think, jump into the cactus.
Oh my God!
If I'm not mistaken, that's what it had said. I had
I'm
to look
about
that up.
crying if I stab my finger on my cactus. I'm like, oh my God, ouch! you know,
Yeah,
never- it's like, never mind getting thrown in the cactus.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna look it up right quick and see if I could because
Ah,
it's
there's Bucket
read.
said yes, jumped repeatedly. Oh my God, that'd be awful.
Can you imagine that? Yeah, whenever I heard the name Ruby Frank, uh, normally started thinking about. I just think about Anne Frank. So when people kept mentioning you need to look up that story, I thought it was maybe an older story. I did not know that it was really a true story today. So that's why it shocked me on it. And then I went and seen it how they were prosecuted and the jail sentence and stuff.
Excuse me. Yeah, it was. I think then she gets her sentence date on the 20th
Okay,
February.
okay,
She
I'll show
went.
you this little bit, even though I'm not going to that. Let's see, let me get past that right here. Um, I presented again, but I don't have the
Oh
full.
yes, yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. That's how it was on the YouTube.
And it said
When
right
they
here,
posted it.
Ruby Frank's business partner pleads guilty after forcing daughter to jump in a cactus, handcuffed son.
Oh my
See,
God.
there's right there.
Let's have a
After
look.
forcing daughter
Oh
to
yeah.
jump in a cactus, handcuffed son.
Oh
So that was Hildebrandt that did that.
yeah.
Hildebrandt
The
did that
two of
to,
them.
to the
The
girl.
two of them were. I don't know. There's no a word that you could put. That wasn't a business. What they were doing. There's no way that was a business.
Right.
But they were
It's
making
horrible.
money from it.
Yeah, that was Hildebrandt that did that to Ruby Frank. Let Hildebrandt take the daughter and the son to her house, take care of them, and she actually made the girl jump into the cactus. That's why I said
Yeah.
Hildebrandt needs to lay in the bed of cactus every night when she goes to bed.
Yeah.
And
Do you
that
not
hospital,
think?
yeah,
Do you not think that whatever you done to that person, you should get done to you in the prison? Like she should be like lying on that cell floor, starving, and then if she eats her breakfast because she's hungry, that's it. She'll not get any more. And like if there's, as you say, jump in the cactuses, instead when she gets her 10 minutes out in the field, her 10 minutes is jumping in the cactus field.
no food and no water, so that means they didn't even have medical care. But they're getting
Yeah,
that medical care where they're at right now. That's a little bit unfair to me, you know?
yeah. But they'll get, but they'll get a bed. They'll get 3 meals a day, and they'll be looked after, and they'll get to get a wee bit of self education thrown in there as well because they'll be in there for a long time. So that's how they'll get treated. Although they'll be in there for a long time, and they'll be, was it extradited for the, well, I don't know. They might get to mingle with other ones, but I don't think so because if you do anything to children in the prison, the prisoners will get a hold of you, and I think that
And
goes.
I
I
hope
think
that
that's a
they're
rule
not
for all of
moving
them.
together. I hope that they're
Oh, they
not
probably
saving the
will.
same cell together, you know?
They probably will. They probably will get a cell together. Yeah, and
That's
then they'll be
horrible.
all right. They'll be starting to do other things. They'll be taking the money off the prisoners. They'll be taking their dinner off them. That's probably how it'll end up.
Yeah.
but
But man,
that's,
the kind of things you could imagine tying, handcuffing them up the way that her son was
yeah,
handcuffed.
that's exactly what I think they should be done to them because that's torture.
But, you know, like I told you how my mom put my head down a sink full of water till I lost consciousness. See, earlier my dad had twist my nose with pliers, right? Well, when I was 6 or whatever. But so I had trouble breathing. But the thing about it is, this lady went beyond sticking the child's head underwater. She actually put her fingers on his nose and mouth, blocking that where they could get no airways, no kind of oxygen whatsoever.
I know it's pure horrific. How could you do that to? And it's their own children, it's their own, my God. Well, that other woman as well that was involved in the business, you know, but the mother let them do it.
Thank you, Mel.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm a product of, I was sex trafficked and everything and sold since I was 2 years old. I was horrifically abused. So I get these stories out because it happens too often to people.
Yeah, we'll have to get these stories out. Well, I was never like sexually abused or that, but my father was a narcissist, and he was top class at it. So but I was, I don't know, I took it on the chin quite a lot, but most of the times, I got a good leathering for things. But that was sort of how you dealt with punishment back in
Now,
the days. But now you look at it, and it was like, definitely there was. My dad was a psycho, total psycho. But you know what? You knew when he came home from the pub, what was going to happen, and it was like, oh no, again. And then my mum would say, just be quiet, and then I'd start arguing with him, and then that would be it, kicking off. But
right.
you sort of learn to live with that. But it has affected me now later on.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to endure that as well. The narcissist person is so hard to deal with. And a friend of mine used to tell me, I wish that my daddy would, or whoever would have went ahead and hit me because the emotional pain, it really does a lot more damage, is what she told me. And she said, I wish he would have just went ahead and hit me and hurt me and everything. And I'm like, no, you don't, you know?
Yeah, yes. When I look at my childhood was okay. I was never deprived of food or clothes or anything like that. But the punishment, it was like on, you know, and then it wasn't just like you got a slap on the wrist. I had a burst lip, a black eye, you know, things like that, black and blue. But and you think to yourself, that was a full grown man laying a punch, to children. I'd only need a couple of punches, but that's what happened. Or I'd be dragged by my arm, you know, thrown up the
Right.
stairs and into my bed, leathered halfway up the stairs as well. But when I look back at these things, I wasn't really that naughty. I would just say something. It was because I was quite outspoken. Then I used to say things to wind them up even more. I used but then I got older, and I was getting older and stronger, and he was getting older and weaker. So
Did
he's
you see
a
what
table.
Mel's? Could you see what Mel's saying to you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Mel, it's okay. I'm sort of over it these days, but I'm not the best at arguing. You know,
Yeah. But let
I'll
me
be
tell
done
you
with
this:
arguing.
you said it was just psychological abuse; it was not physical. But when he grabbed your arm and threw you down the stairs, that's physical.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're
It was
lucky you
physical.
survived, and you're lucky you survived that.
He threw a bike at me as well once, and it smacked me on the face.
No,
He was in his garage doing something, and I came in, and I was wanting my tires pumped up. Just a child wanting her tires pumped up. Oh, and he went
innocent. Yeah.
absolutely ballistic, and I got the bike thrown at me. So I was like, okay, I'm not getting the tires pumped up then.
Oh
you know,
well.
yeah,
Said he
but
pumped up your
I,
face when he did that.
my, yeah,
Instead, when he did that, he pumped up your face, swollen up your face and everything. It's not good at all.
yeah, I think my dad had trauma as well.
Thank you, Mel.
Because, yeah, but I didn't. I'm not making excuses for him or anything. But he was in a serious um, work accident, and my dad was a miner. Excuse me. My dad was a coal miner, and one of the one of the pits, well, the coal field that he worked in went on fire. He was there at the time of the fire in the pit in the hole, and they had to all get out, and it was pretty traumatizing. But I wasn't born at that time. My two sisters were born, and my mum and my two sisters had to go to my dad's place of work and to find out if he came out up alive. But he did come up alive. But he wanted some of the men wanted to go back down because there was still men down there, and they wanted to get them all up, but they couldn't. And they had to pour concrete in the hole so that the fire would suffocate. But my dad never ever spoke about being a miner, because it was pretty a horrific job. He lost a lot of pals, getting good friends at that job. Like, and he nearly lost his life as well. But it didn't give him the right to abuse me and my mum, like. But that's what they done.
Nobody, anybody knew about how y'all were treated or anything?
Yeah, I think the school knew, but back in my day, you couldn't even phone the police. Nobody was. I don't know what it would have been like in America, but in Scotland, it was like the police never got involved. It was just like, oh, didn't get involved. But
Yeah, yeah. I told you what had happened when my siblings had said that during class, because I told you my dad used to shoot at me with a 12 gauge, high go seek gauge.
yeah,
And then my sisters, I got a twin sister, everyone, and she said that sometimes when a car went by and backfired, then I would get out of the school and start running down, and they would find me. The bus drivers would go and look for me, and one of the certain bus drivers always knew where to find me. But I don't remember it. I was in like a fugue. I was in like a type of trance, the fight or flight type of thing.
yeah,
And then they brought me back, according to my sister, and I still got a big blur on that, and said that the police was there, and they told the police officer that my daddy used to shoot at me and beat me with the whips and everything. And so I can remember the part where I snapped out of it when we pulled right, was going to park at home. And so I realized I was home there and everything, and Dad was there. And the police officer said, "Well, I heard that you shoot at this little girl and you beat her." Said, "All them marks on her is where she fell in the blackberry bushes and everything." And the cop looked at me and says, "Don't you ever, ever tell anybody that your dad ever done this to you again, because if we hear you report that you were done this way, we're gonna arrest you."
Mm. Yeah, that's how the police treated women back in the days in the like 70s and 80s. I see Bucket said, yeah, they get more involved now. Yeah, they do get more involved, and it's good that they get involved. But back in the day, we just had to like live it, and I always say, you didn't get PTSD at being in a war. Sometimes war is in your own home. And that's how I felt sometimes. I hate slamming doors. My dad was great at slamming doors, brilliant at slamming doors. And just he was like, if there was an Olympic sport for slamming doors, he'd be there getting gold. And I used to go mental at him slamming the doors. But sometimes when I hear a door getting slammed, I'm like, it jumps me out my wits. He's dead now, like, so I know for a fact he's not slamming any doors, like. Oh,
But
yeah,
what you were mentioning that your daddy was narcissistic,
yeah,
and when we look at this case here today, Ruby, she seemed that she was narcissistic, and Jody seemed narcissistic as well.
yeah. Oh, it must be a terrible behaviour trait uh, to ever have it, because like I've studied people with narcissist behaviour. Well, I had my father today a first class degree on, but I've come across narcs in my life, and I just think, wow, you know, and they try to push your buttons so that you snap. But because I know what's coming, that's why I didn't do much arguing with people, because most people, they're always, no, most people, but narky ones, they like a good argument and then twist it around and then make you feel that you're the abuser. You know what I mean? That's how they play the game.
Yes, I got a
And
question for I got a question for y'all. Since it's said that the police said that him and CPS tried to get involved, the police officer did. You remember we read that a little bit ago? He said, but the kids did not open the door.
right.
Don't you think that
Yeah,
there's a way that they could have still got to the kids?
yeah, they should have maybe forced entry because if it was children, but sometimes you know your parents will say they'll blame you, say how did they twist it around, basically saying the police won't come. They're not going to help. Nobody's coming to help you. You know what I mean? So then if you make a complaint, you always feel that you're the one that's been accused. It's a very strange feeling, because I'm like that with the police. Yeah, I'm like, there's no point phoning because I'll be the one that gets arrested. And
Yeah.
I'll be the
And
and that's how it feels. And I could imagine how the kids would have felt terrified. Their
yeah,
parents would have.
they were had to be terrified of the police and everything when the mom kept telling them that they were evil
Mm,
and
exactly,
that they deserved all this punishment that happened to them. So they were probably petrified of the police.
exactly. Exactly, darling. And that's narcissistic behavior. Was it that reverse psychology? You know, but it's actually a mental health issue. But I don't know if you. See, I don't know if you're actually born that way or something. You got a bump on the head. I used to say to my dad, "You got a bump on the head when you were born." But there is something quite, strange about the behaviour. I don't think you're born one. I think you gather up the traits and you enjoy it. You enjoy seeing other people in misery. You get a kick out of it, and
Yeah, they
it's
always
that.
try to. A lot of them try to blame their past childhoods on you. Like I was abused, so this is why I'm doing this. But look, there's a lot of us like me that I'm not narcissistic. I'm not because I chose not to hurt people. You got a choice
Yeah.
in your life on how you're going to treat others. Something I did notice, my friend that she's now divorced her husband, Madison, Alabama, and he was narcissistic very badly. Okay, so it's kind of weird how he could go around his mom and then all of a sudden be seem like he's sane, that he don't
Mm-hmm.
have that trait. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like he knows how to control himself,
Mm-hmm.
but he just does not want to.
Yeah. 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 Because
That's
there's
what
different traits in narcissistic as well. You've got the covert, uh, but their goal is at the end is to make your life as much misery as possible because they get joy out of it. That's it. They just get joy out of other people's misery, and they just keep doing it over and
and
over.
even though these other two kids, the smallest two, were not abused as like these other two, these middle kids, I would call them middle kids because she had other kids that's no longer in the home. Um, I would think that she already was degrading them in some way, and they were feeling not worthy and scared to ask for anything themselves.
Yeah. See, my dad was like that. He said I wasn't good at anything, but I was good at everything. And he hated that. And then I used to be like, guess what I've done? And I got like even when I was at school, I was okay, but I used to get thrown out of class for being disturbing. But apart from that, when I moved on, I had a really good job, and I managed. But I got bullied quite a lot. But the bullies then regretted bullying me because they found out, I wasn't having any of their nonsense. But I used to get bullied then for managers and that, and then I used to just put my jacket on and walk out, and they'd be like, "You can't leave," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I can." So I would just go, just leave, but I'd be able to get another job. But my father, when I'd come back, my dad would be like, "Well, you better have a job by the morrow," and then he's like, "Because you're not living under this roof." So then I ended up getting my own house, and he hated me getting he ended up hating me having my own house, And then I had a job, and then I had a car, and then I got then I became a bus driver and that, and I went to I went later on in life. Then I went on to college and I done sound engineering and electronic engineering. And I just kept on like educating myself. I could see my dad really hating it because like, although my dad was quite a clever man, he couldn't fulfill his education because he ended up getting married and having kids, and well, he was a minor, and that was good enough money, and it was a hard job. It was like engineering and all that you had to learn when you've been a minor. But there was a massive strike in the 80s, and my dad got uh, lost his job after the miners' strike, and then because it was a big political movement that happened in the whole of Britain, the miners' strike, it was horrific. Um, the government made sure that the miners would never ever work again in their entire life. And they went to a big march one day in Yorkshire, and the police all moved in, and the police arrested, quite a lot of miners. Then my dad ended up with a charge, and it was because it was against the government and the police. They made sure that they would never work. And my dad had that grudge on his life for when he was in his 50s. But that wasn't my problem. You know what I mean? although my mum worked and my mum was able to then be the rule of the roost, and my dad hated that as well because my mum was a very independent, strong woman as well. And then my mum retired after 10 years, but the both of them they got pensions, and my dad got really good money because my dad was in an injury in the pit and he broke his back, and we've got quite a good government system to look after if you've been injured at work. So my dad did a good pension and he got a good claim money and that as well. So they sat pretty comfortable for the rest of their lives. But when I was progressing through my careers, I could see my dad hating it. Remember, I'm showing him my qualifications when I done it at the college. Oh, and I could see the envy. Just like looked at it and went, "Where are you going to be going with this?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to get a job." Again. But yeah, you've seen the anger and the hatred. And that hurt, things like that. That hurt more sometimes. I could take a punch in, but things like that hurt more.
I'll show y'all something right here, right quick, okay?
Okay.
Said Ruby
But
Frank's children had smirks and looked shocked during Jodi Hildebrandt's remarks. Ruby Frank's younger children were not in court, but her older children, Sherry and Chad, were present for the sentencing, according to local reporters in the courtroom. At a press conference that followed the hearing, a reporter stated that the two children had smirks and looked shocked when Jodi Hildebrandt said she loved their siblings, whom she had abused. Yeah, they knew that's not love, because, they laughed about it, right? Before being sentenced, Hildebrandt made a statement to the court. I sincerely love these children. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally. One of the reasons I did not go to trial is that I did not want them to emotionally relive the experience which had been detrimental for them. My hope and prayer is that they will heal and move forward to have beautiful lives. Hildebrandt's attorney, Douglas Terry, responded to the reporter, that doesn't surprise me, but she was sincere in the statement. I don't think anything sincere about that, really, because if it would not be for them, they would not be in that predicament of needing the help and all that. Y'all know what I'm saying there?
yeah, they're just like giving you salad words now. Sometimes it's excuses in a long sentence.
Yeah, and this is a Ruby Frank's children were in a concentration camp setting. Prosecutor Eric Clark said Ruby Frank's children was in concentration camp-like setting and spelled out disturbing details. In court on Tuesday on the Monfluencer sentencing, the children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment. He said they were isolated from others and were hidden when people came to visit the house. The children were forced to do physical tasks like carrying boxes up and down the stairs and wall sits or sitting against a wall without a chair or a stool for hours at a time. Now, see, we read the other things and we didn't even hear this part, did we? He continued, they were also forced to do manual labor outdoors in an extreme summer heat without shoes or socks. They were forced to stand outside on a cement patio in the summer heat for hours. They were beaten. Both children had extensive physical injuries from the abuse that required hospitalization when they were found. The injuries from the binding to the 12-year-old are particularly awful. Had the older of the children not had the courage to run away and ask a neighbor to call the police, heaven only knows how much longer he could have survived in that situation. She's actually sobbing right here. She apologized to the children she abused. You had a chance to do right. Don't sob just because you're facing the repercussions of your actions. Then it said like this, the 41, this is what had happened, we'll go back over this again. The 41-year-old Utah mother of six admitted to a slew of horrific acts that included forcing them to work outside in the sweltering heat without adequate water until they blistered. She tried to convince her children that they were evil and possessed and that the punishments were necessary to repent. She described the abuse as acts of love. The the punishment was necessary to repent? I don't think so, Tim. The disturbing details were revealed in Frank's statement filed in court in support of her guilty pleas, in which she stated she abused two of her children in Washington County from May 22nd until her arrest on May the 30th. August the 30th, sorry. Frank further admitted to forcing the boy into long hours of physical tasks, working outside in the summer without shoes or adequate water. He received repeated and serious sunburns that blistered after he was forced to stand in the direct sunlight for several days. The boy was denied sufficient food and was given food. He was when he was given food, it was given very plain meals, while others in the house ate regular, more flavorful meals, according to the plea agreement. Frank also admitted to kicking her son while wearing boots, holding his head underwater, cutting off oxygen by placing her hands over his mouth and nose. Ropes were used to tie together handcuffs that secured his hands and feet as he lay on his stomach. Can you imagine that position there and then having the ropes tied, connecting basically that? So he was like almost like you would chain a pig, unfortunately. Lifting his arms and legs off the ground and injuring his wrists and ankles, the plea agreement stated. And say the mother is six pled guilty, and then there's not saying nothing. I tried to think that I was calling Siri. Then that's where they're sentenced.
I'll tell you, prisoners didn't even get that punishment in prison, but she was doing it to her children.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it said that it says were sentenced to 4 to 60 years in prison on Tuesday. Prosecution called it described as concentration camp like abuse. Frank said she was under the influence of her business partner. But what's the deal when your older daughter said it's about time you arrested my mom for abuse? So no, it was not Jodi's fault. It was not your kid's fault. It was yours. You've been doing this all along, evidently, because your older daughter couldn't wait for you to have been arrested. The Utah mental health counselor, who had been hired to work with Frank's youngest son before going into business with her, also received 4 consecutive prison sentences of 1 to 15 years. However, the women will only serve up to 30 years in prison. Only 30? Due to a Utah state law that caps the sentence duration for consecutive penalties. The Utah Board of Pardons and Parole will consider their behavior while incarcerated and determine how much of that time each will spend behind bars. That's wrong. The mother of six was once a YouTube sensation, drawing in millions of subscribers to her channel while she offered parenting advice. Don't take her advice, anyone. She's in jail for her kind of stuff. That's where they amass and border. What here's where she deceived. What's Ruby Page says she was deceived by dark delusion, is what she claims right there. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's where Hildebrandt is right there.
Dark
Yeah,
illusion. That's crazy. There
yeah,
was a bit that
exactly.
she said about she was the dark or the light or something, and it was like she was trying to be all biblical and that about it, and it's like, no, you got caught, you know.
Exactly. Here's a body cam shows moment neighbors learn Ruby Frank allegedly kept children in safe. What? Police body cam shows the moment a neighbor of Ruby Frank found out YouTube parenting influence had been allegedly keeping the children in a safe. The neighbor, Pam Bodshire, had visibly shocked when told about the child abuse. Frank and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, were sentenced Tuesday to 4 to 60 years in prison. What good did that do? When I might try to see if we can hear this right quick. I'll try my best. Animals have better treatment. Yeah, you're right. I don't mind showing how I go to change the audio here. I don't mind that because the video.
Your whole health is more than what you find at the doctor's office. Because it's all around you. The food you eat.
As of right now, I'll just need you to give your phone to your husband. Okay. And as of this moment, you're going to be detained right now. Okay.
Okay. She's a friend of ours. She comes over and helps me every once in a while to do cleaning and stuff.
Okay. So this is what happened, okay? Her parents were in the situation of a child abuse allegation.
Okay.
DCFS made the report and went to the house and found children malnourished and locked in a safe. Okay?
In the safe?
In a safe.
Okay, and then did you say to bring them to your house for today and then take it back home tonight, or to keep them here for a couple days?
She didn't say. I was just planning on bringing them home tonight.
I think that was the safe room that she was going on about. But it did look just now.
Wow. Well, so I remember now. I was over there. I had watched a video where police had showed up at this very expensive house, right? And that the kid did not want to go. They're like, we got to take the kid. But she was locked in a safe. The kids were locked in a safe. So that means she probably locked them in a safe where the kids could not even get out to go to the police. I'll come back, I hope. Do you see what I'm saying, y'all? This is horrible. They were locked in a safe. Put it right there if anybody wants to come up and join. And she wants to come back and join too. Okay, I put the link up again. But put in a safe and locked in there. So the reason why the kids probably could not go open the door was not the matter of maybe them being scared. So maybe that they were probably locked in that freaking safe. Wow. Did they even have food?
I pressed the wrong button.
Okay, you want to do your camera off or what? Because I know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I pressed the wrong button. I was mucking around with the chat. Yeah, I was saying, it's if you look on YouTube, you'll come across other videos of what their house looked like, and it's just they said it was a safe house in case, I don't know, an apocalypse happened. But there was, I'm sure, her 8 children and her partner, business partner, it would be very cramped inside this safe house. But it was in the basement area. But I had like one of the big spindle doors, like in a big safe. But it was just like a jail cell, really. But have a look on YouTube. Look it up, darling.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to turn off the mic. Y'all might not could hear me because the last time I tried to play a YouTube video, y'all could not hear. So then I had to stop it, remember? So it'll be a trial. If it is, we need to go to that other video too, if it's going to allow me to do that. So first, I need to share, well, do the settings. Y'all won't be able to hear me again for a minute. Let me get that fixed out.
Starting off our day the way we do every day. Popular momfluencer Ruby Franke, known for her tough love approach to parenting.
Keeping them home from school and wiping the floorboards would really bring pain.
Now set to face a Utah judge over the custody of 4 of her 6 children as she faces felony charges of child abuse.
You two stay on that corner.
And this morning, exclusive body cam footage obtained by ABC News showing the moments police swarm Franke's Utah home the day of her arrest on August 30th.
Police department!
Guns drawn as police scour room to room in Franke's home for more of her children after one of them escaped from a house of her business partner nearly 4 hours away in Ivins, Utah.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
According to court documents, authorities arrived to the Ivins home to find Ruby's 10-year-old daughter described as emaciated. But more exclusive body cam confirming the whereabouts of the 2 middle children.
Well, we have to physically see her.
A different police agency finding them miles away and turning them over to the state. This as estranged husband Kevin Franke, who's been separated from his wife since July 2022, fights for custody of their 4 minor children, all currently in the care of the state. Some of the alleged claims of neglect reported on this 911 call made by their oldest daughter, 20-year-old Sherry Franke, back in September 2022.
Hi, my name is Sherry Franke. My 4 younger siblings are living in Springville, and my neighbors have been telling me that they have been left home alone for about 4 or 5 days.
Records indicating police responded to the Franke home more than a dozen times in the last few years, as early as 2018, and a wellness check in 2022. Authorities arresting Ruby and her business partner in connections, Jodi Hildebrandt. The 2 now face 6 counts each of felony child abuse, each charge carrying a penalty of 15 years in prison.
The criminal side could actually have a lot of influence on the family case because these are charges related to child abuse, child neglect. And when family judges are looking to determine where kids should have custody, where they should live, those types of charges can heavily affect that determination.
ABC News did reach out to attorneys for both Ruby and Kevin Franke about their custody battle, but have not heard back. In the meantime, Ruby Franke and her business partner and co-defendant, Jodi Hildebrandt, were denied bail and are in jail.
Watch breaking news.
What do you mean by that?
Honestly, my biggest fear ever since I started vlogging was, but what if I wake up and my children are just staring at a wall all day and there's nothing to film? That is legitimately my biggest fear.
A woman who rose to fame on YouTube with her videos on parenting, childcare, and marriage is charged with 6 counts of felony child abuse. But how did we get here? What led to a young boy climbing out of a window and rushing to a neighbor for help? We're digging into the Ruby Franke case and her timeline from mom to vlogger to criminal defendant. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, her name is everywhere right now, Ruby Franke. And even if you've never seen any of her videos, you know who I'm talking about. It is all over the news. It's all over social media. We here at Sidebar, we have been heavily focused in trying to delve into this highly disturbing case as well. Now, Franke is, of course, the 41-year-old YouTuber mom who is now charged alongside her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse with respect to 2 of her young children. I'm talking about a case where police discovered Franke's emaciated children, her 10-year-old daughter, her 12-year-old son. They were found in Hildebrandt's residence. And in fact, the boy had suffered deep lacerations. There was even evidence that he had been tied up. We're going to get to all that. But we should actually start from the beginning in order to understand how we got here. So, this is a full timeline of what we know so far in the Ruby Franke case. Let's start with the family. So, Ruby Griffiths met Kevin Franke. They got married, and they had their first child back in 2003. Kevin had graduated from Utah State University for undergrad and then got his graduate degree from Brigham Young University in civil engineering. He went on to teach engineering at BYU as an associate professor. Kevin and Ruby are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They end up having 6 children together: Shari, Chad, Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve. The family lived in Ivins, Utah. It's about 4 hours away from Salt Lake City. But then you fast forward to 2015, and Ruby and Kevin started a channel on YouTube called 8 Passengers. And the videos were all about their family and parenting and marriage and homeschooling.
I've never once forgotten to vlog. Like, it's like forgetting to eat or forgetting to breathe. For me, like picking up the camera and vlogging, it's like I would never forget to do that.
Their channel became so popular, it eventually boasted more than 2 million subscribers.
I just felt the Spirit tell me everything's going to work out okay. And then I had the thought, you need to share this too on your video. You need to let your viewers know that everything's going to be okay for them too.
All right, we want to thank Morgan & Morgan, the largest injury law firm in America, for sponsoring this video. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Lawyers, endless hours of confusing paperwork. Not with Morgan & Morgan, folks. Nope, they have completely modernized the personal injury claim process. How have they done that? Well, you submit your claim, you upload documents, and you talk with your whole legal team. Yes, team, all on your phone. A team. I wonder what that's like. I can't even get anyone here to get me a coffee. Oh, and get this. You only pay them if you win. Yeah, there's no upfront fee. It's pretty amazing. It's no surprise over 3 million people call them every year. The day-to-day life of the family, from after-school sports.
How many of you out there play tennis?
To cooking.
Is because if I decide I wanted a roast at the last minute, pork is really quick and easy. It does not take all day. It takes like about 30 minutes.
To haircuts.
Dad, is there anything wrong with the back of my hair?
Wrong?
Yeah.
No. That's the way yours.
It's horrible.
But it did not come without its share of criticism and controversy. You see, Franke's videos also addressed some sensitive and darker topics.
One thing that I think is very, very harmful is inappropriate memes. There are some hilarious memes out there, but there are also some memes that are just downright nasty. And I think it's important that we know what our kids are looking at on their Instagram feeds.
However, it was her parenting style that really became problematic for many. It was a level of discipline that concerned viewers. For example, in one video, Franke admits that her youngest daughter, then 6-year-old Eve, forgot to pack a lunch for school.
I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry.
6 years old. In another video, Franke said, quote, "My kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like a mean barbarian, but I told the kids I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores done." which is all so chilling considering the allegations of starving her children. But the discipline would also consist of other acts too, like her and Kevin not giving their 2 youngest children gifts on Christmas one year because they said they were selfish. Now, the 8 Passengers channel, it was removed by YouTube, we believe earlier this year. Reporting indicates that the family had also been posting less content over time. We don't know exactly why all this happened. It could be connected to the criticism of some about the punishments that this family doled out to the kids and talked about in their videos. Multiple accounts online have posted videos over the past few years pointing out these concerning moments that were all caught on camera.
What do you do when you're disciplining your kids and they make you laugh? Mom. Oh, it's frustrating. All of my kids have done it. Chad does it too.
I do not, because I never get disciplined.
And Ruby Franke herself would respond to that criticism.
Online who hate me, who would like to cancel me, who would like to see me either burn in hell, as I have told, or disappear off the face of the earth. And I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, Franke said in an interview with CWIC Media last year, quote, "I was slapped upside the face with shock that people didn't like responsibility. I went overnight nearly from being this loved YouTube mom to being called a neglectful, abusive mom. I was shocked." Well, now Franke is in a Utah jail cell, accused of abusing her children alongside her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt. And that's the moment I want to take right now. I want to take a moment to talk a little bit more about Jodi's backstory. So according to the Utah Division of Professional Licensing, Jodi Hildebrandt is a clinical mental health counselor. She started her own YouTube channel known as Connections.
So many of us that are parents, it's like, I don't want to have to track them down. I don't want to have to just, like take everything away from them. And it's like, you're not taking things away from them. What you're doing is you've handed them things that they're not managing. And so it's your job to make sure that the first thing they manage is themselves. Like they understand how to manage themselves. They know how to be responsible for themselves. They know how to not blame. They know how to get curious, which means humble. They know how to ask questions. They know how to say, that doesn't feel right. Can you help me understand? They know how to do all that. And when you give them activities or you give them opportunities that they engage in where they can't manage themselves, they're only going to become more and more unmanageable inside of these activities.
And at some point, Ruby Franke joined Connections. We also believe that Kevin might have been in some of those videos. In fact, the website lists Ruby Franke as a certified mental fitness trainer. And Franke, as I said, appeared alongside Hildebrandt in these videos.
I have been full-time. You wonder where I've been on my vlogs? You wonder why I left YouTube? It's to save my kids. No amount of money. I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt. With entitlement, they were being hurt. With people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand.
Okay, but now fast forward to last month, when according to court documents and a 911 phone call, Franke's 12-year-old son, RF, who we know to be Russell, climbed out of a window at the home of Hildebrandt. He ran to a neighbor and asked him to call the police.
911, the address of your emergency. Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty. And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid. This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. We need the cops here as soon as possible.
Yeah, it appeared that Russell had been bound with duct tape, that he was severely malnourished. He was asking for food and water. First responders, they come. They find his sister, EF, who we know to be Eve, 10 years old, Inside of the home in a very similar state, both were taken to a hospital. Ruby Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt, they were both arrested. Now, I also want to tell you that police noted as well that Ruby Franke was seen on a YouTube video filmed in Jodi Hildebrandt's house. It was posted 2 days before the kids were discovered. And the police said, quote, "This observation points to Franke being in the home and having knowledge of the abuse." That's why each is charged with either inflicting the injuries themselves on these kids or causing or permitting another to inflict the injuries. So it's going to be hard to argue that Ruby Franke didn't know what was happening or didn't endorse it. And prosecutors are going to have quite the latitude to argue in front of a jury that these injuries constitute child abuse because under the various charges, it is abuse if the injuries result in a form of torture or malnourishment, even severe emotional harm. These are serious crimes. In fact, the maximum is 15 years in prison on each respective charge. Let's go back to the early warning signs of trouble. Well, back in 2020, Child Protective Services went to the Franke home to investigate claims of abuse thanks to a change.org petition. This again seemed to be brought on by the viewers of her channel, again, people who were concerned with what they were seeing. But here's what may have prompted that. So then 15-year-old Chad, the Franke's oldest son, was sent from Utah to a camp in Arizona called Anasazi. It is a weeks-long wilderness camp for troubled teens. And when he got back, he played apparently some pranks on his younger brother, Russell, whom he shared a bedroom with. And take a listen to what Chad and Ruby Franke, his mom, had to say in a video that she posted, and eventually it was taken down.
In our house, when we take something away, it's because they have shown that they are not responsible enough to manage it. And so we don't just turn around and give it back as soon as they start acting good.
It has to be consistent.
It has to be consistent over a minimum of 6 months.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October. My room back like 2 weeks ago. I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, and he's like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on. And I was like, we're not going to Disneyland. And he started crying and hitting me. And then he went back to bed in tears. And then...
So that was not the reason you lost your room, but that was...
Well, the other reason is because I pointed a BB gun at his face.
Pointed a BB gun at his face and hung him on the basketball. basically, Chad...
Like the day I got home, too.
Chad came home from Anasazi and...
Russell was like, I want to try dunking the basketball, and I lifted him up on the rim. And left him there. We saw 30 minutes, and he was just hanging on there.
Do you think it's funny? Because...
And then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Chad showed that he was not able to manage himself sharing a bedroom with Russell.
So when we moved, the bigger room in the basement was automatically his, and I didn't have a room, but we put one on hold for me.
So a lot of you are like, hey, that's not fair because Chad got the lesser bedroom and Russell got the bigger bedroom. Russell got the big bedroom and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room. It hurts me just as much as it hurts my kids.
Both Chad and his sister reveal that they don't have any friends since they moved to a new home, nearly an hour away from their school.
I don't feel safe or accepted in any friend group stuff.
And in the same video, Ruby talked about going away with her husband Kevin to a retreat, and while they're gone, the kids were only supposed to use their iPads for schoolwork, but Ruby learned that the youngest children had broken the rules, So because of that, Ruby apparently took away all the electronics from everyone for the rest of that summer. After she spoke with Chad and Abby about her views on punishment, she then brings Russell into the frame. And I just want you to watch his face as she's talking, because for me, it seems pretty evident how uncomfortable he is, because he's not only dealing with the fact that he's being disciplined, but this conversation is being recorded.
Okay, you guys, I need to go have a talk with Russell. The fact that he's not willing to sit with me and be humble and talk is a big demonstration to me that he has some distorted views and that he is in a lot of shame. Oh, there you are. I was just talking about you. Do you want to come sit with me and talk? I'm going to get down on your level. I've noticed that you've been hiding from me, and you are feeling a lot of embarrassment and shame. I don't know. You tell me what you're feeling. Mad?
Because I really won't get anything this summer. I won't be able to go anywhere. I don't have any friends. No iPads, no TV, nothing.
Okay, so I hear you. That sounds like a lot to be taken away. That sounds like it's going to be a miserable summer. Can I tell you what I see? Would you be open to hearing what I have to say? I see that yes, the iPads will be taken because you weren't responsible. You were lying and being manipulative with them.
Yeah, but you did start it.
And Eve may have started it. That's very possible. And who's responsible for you being disobedient around the iPads?
Me.
You. So it's up to you. If you want to be miserable because you don't get TV or iPad, that is totally up to you. You get to choose boredom and you get to choose to be miserable. What I am seeing, though, is that you're upset with the outcome for being mischievous. And instead of being humble and accepting that there is an outcome for you behaving like that with the iPads, instead you're being selfish. And what I would like to see is that you be humble and say, yeah, I own it. I was mischievous with the iPads. I was sneaking them. I can see where I've broken trust, and I don't want our relationship to be an untrusting relationship.
And once again, Frankie defends her actions.
For listening to all of your comments and your feedback, I think I understand where some people are coming from. They're like, oh, the parents don't give their kids beds, and I totally agree with that. I know there are lots of children out there whose parents are neglectful. We got accused of child abuse when we sent Chad to Anasazi. Guess what? The first thing that they did was take a bed away. They don't have beds. So Chad slept on the hard ground for months, and it's run by psychologists and therapists. And if not having a bed was psychologically damaging, then they wouldn't have suggested that.
Now, it was videos like these that led viewers to be concerned. I mentioned this change.org petition that was set up. It received a lot of signatures. Well, then CPS, Child Protective Services, is called to visit the home. And social workers come to the Franke home. They look around. They interview all the children. But the case was closed because there was not enough evidence of wrongdoing or a crime being committed or abuse. Ruby Franke explained in an interview with The Wrap, saying, quote, I remember that morning very well. These officers, they were two ladies, said there had been several complaints about child abuse and child neglect. Could they come in and spend some time? She goes on to say that they didn't find anything. And before leaving, according to her, these workers were supposedly so impressed with her and Kevin's parenting that Franke said, quote, they both said they were going to go home and make some changes on how they were parenting. In fact, according to Kevin Franke, when they walked in unannounced, Eve and Ruby were baking bread together and doing a puzzle. He went on to say that it was hardly the evidence of an abusive home. But then, in another incident, April 2022, a social worker from the Department of Child and Family Services, DCFS, contacted police saying that two children were running unsupervised by the family home. But when a police officer arrives, the kids weren't there. We also know that back on September 18th, 2022, the couple's daughter, Shari Franke, called police. You see, Shari basically cut ties with her family after Ruby started working with Jodi at Connections, and she herself was attending Brigham Young at the time. But Shari reported that her siblings had been left home alone for days, and she wanted to make sure that they had enough food. So police show up. The kids reportedly wouldn't answer the door, but police could see them inside. The police speak with the neighbors. In fact, according to an officer in a report, quote, everyone who came to the scene was very concerned about the children and them being left at home alone, expressed great concern about the two youngest children being homeschooled while the two older ones go to public school, mostly because it shows that they're home alone during the day by themselves and there isn't any way for them to contact emergency services if needed. Reporting indicates that law enforcement stopped by the house 4 more times between September 22nd and October 3rd, but it doesn't seem anything came from it. It's not clear if DCFS was involved in this at all. But when Franke and Hildebrandt were arrested, Shari posted on her Instagram story a photo of the police with the caption, "Finally." A neighbor spoke to NBC News saying, quote, "I'm really angry because I spoke up. Other people spoke up. If people knew the amount of tears and time spent talking with law enforcement and CPS over the last year, I want people to understand that. And I want those kids to know that because I think they thought that they were abandoned." Well, now it seems that there is plenty of evidence that points to abuse behind the scenes of these popular videos. The children are now in the care of Child Protective Services as Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt await a bail hearing later this month. And in a bizarre twist, at Franke's most recent court hearing, she claimed that one of her children molested 20 other children, including a sibling, cousins, neighbors. The judge apparently said that the child would need to be placed in a home with no other children. Now, interestingly, we interviewed Ben Chu, famously represented Johnny Depp in his civil abuse case, and here was his take on how that statement could hurt Ruby Franke.
I think it's tremendously detrimental to her case. First of all, I mean, she should have, if any of this were true, she should have reported it at the time rather than waiting to be arrested and arraigned.
As for Kevin Franke, who has not been criminally charged, according to his attorney, Kevin is distraught that he denies any knowledge of abuse and that he has been living separately from Ruby for the last 13 months. I actually had the opportunity to interview Kevin's attorney, Randy Kester, who not only indicated that Ruby called Kevin before she was arrested, asking him to come take care of the kids, but that he is the victim.
He's working hard to do what he can to restore his reputation after it's been destroyed and damaged, and he's getting raked over the coals by all of this, when in fact he himself was to some degree a victim of these psychological and mental manipulations that were perpetrated against him and his family by Jodi. He's just trying to restore some normalcy in his life and make sure that he can, as was his goal all along, to keep this family together and make sure that they thrive and that they recover from this abuse.
Now, I am sure there is more to this story, and it will develop. We'll, of course, continue to follow all this for you and bring you every new detail. That's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you.
For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked, as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me.
Your conduct in this case was disastrous for these children. Adults are supposed to protect children.
Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt have officially been sentenced for abusing Franke's 2 young children. It was a dramatic day inside and outside of court, and we have the full recap for you. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. What a journey this has been in the Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt saga, right? Something that we've been covering since August. We have reached the point where both women have officially been sentenced in a Utah courtroom, and that is what we're going to recap now for you, their sentencing. Now remember, Ruby Franke, she was the once popular mommy vlogger who started this now defunct YouTube channel called 8 Passengers alongside her husband Kevin, or her estranged husband Kevin, I should say. And this was a channel that had over 2 million subscribers at one point. It documented their lives alongside their 6 children. But you fast forward a few years, and Frankie stopped posting on the channel. This after intense backlash from the online community over her strict parenting techniques.
Eve, this is my tape. What are you doing? What are you doing to this poor baby? Should I tape your eyes to make you sleep?
And at one point, she partners up with Jodi Hildebrandt, a mental health counselor, and they work together through Connections, this life coaching organization. But in August of 2023, it all comes crashing down. That is when Frankie's 12-year-old son escapes from Hildebrandt's home, runs to a neighbor who calls 911.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty. And he asked us to call the police, so he's very afraid. This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. We need the cops here as soon as possible.
So this child appears malnourished, lacerations on his body from being tied up. Police recover him as well as his 9-year-old sister at Hildebrandt's home as well. They both have injuries. They are both malnourished. You come to learn that Frankie and her 2 children, they were staying with Hildebrandt. In fact, Frankie and Hildebrandt had actually filmed a video together in that house that was posted 2 days beforehand. So you can't say that they didn't have knowledge about what was going on in that house. They were there. So they're both arrested. They're each charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse. But then months later, both Frankie and Hildebrandt plead guilty. In fact, before Frankie pled guilty, she actually pled guilty first, her attorneys put out a statement on her behalf where it seemed that Frankie placed a lot of the blame on Jodi Hildebrandt. It read in part, quote, Miss Hildebrandt systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss Franke being subjected to a distorted sense of morality shaped by Miss Hildebrandt's influence. But she ended up pleading guilty to 4 of the 6 charges. 2 of them were dropped. She pled guilty to inflicting injuries on her children that constituted physical torture, injuries resulting in severe emotional harm, and a combination of injuries that represented one of the charges. And Ruby, in her deal, had agreed to testify against Jodi Hildebrandt. And then on December 19th, 2023, she ends up pleading guilty.
Ms. Franke, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
Then on December 27th, Jodi Hildebrandt pleads guilty to the same charges in court.
Then, Ms. Hildebrandt, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, also aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
So now it was time for their sentencing. And each charge, each aggravated child abuse charge, carries 1 to 15 years in prison. And in their plea agreements, both women agreed to serve prison time. They agreed that their sentences for each charge would run consecutively, meaning one charge after the other, one sentence after the other. Now, it is our understanding that the judge could possibly say, no, I think probation is more appropriate than prison time. The judge could maybe deviate from the plea agreements and say that the sentences should run concurrently, meaning together, not one after the other, maybe something like that. But we also have to be clear about Utah law, because under Utah law, the judge can only set a range for the sentences and whether the counts should run consecutively or concurrently. The judge can't determine the exact amount of time that each woman should serve in prison. In Utah, that is up to the Board of Pardons and Parole to determine. They determine later down the road when each woman gets released from prison. Now, before we even get into the sentencing, and there's a lot there, Law and Crime, on the eve of this sentencing, received a statement from Kevin Franke's attorney. And it read, quote, "Neither Kevin nor I will be making formal statements to the press, nor will Kevin be making a victim impact statement. Since the kids are still in the custody of Utah DCFS, Department of Child and Family Services, I suspect that neither will they be. Our only comment is that we trust the judge to sentence them both to the 1 to 15 years for each of the 4 counts to run consecutively, and then let the Utah State Board of Pardons decide if that should be shortened or other conditions imposed. The treatment these children received at the hands of those who the children had a right to trust was horrific and inhumane, both physically and psychologically. Kevin remains focused on the rehabilitation of those sweet and vulnerable children so that they might return to a normal life as soon as possible." Okay. February 20th, 2024, the sentencing of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt. First, we start off with Ruby Franke. Here is Eric Clark, the Washington County attorney, providing a statement to the court. Listen to how he describes this environment that these kids were in.
She committed horrible acts of child abuse. From May to August in 2023, Ms. Franke and her business partner held her 2 children, ages 9 and 11, turning 12, in a concentration camp-like setting. The children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment. They were isolated from others and were hidden when people came to visit the house where the children and the defendants were staying. The children were forced to do physical tasks like carrying loaded boxes up and down stairs and wall sits or sitting against a wall without a chair or stool for hours at a time. They were also forced to do manual labor outdoors in the extreme summer heat, at times without shoes or socks. They were forced to stand outside on a cement patio in the summer heat for hours and even days at a time. They were beaten, and the 12-year-old was regularly bound hand and foot after he attempted to run away in mid-July. Heaven only knows how much longer he could have survived in that situation.
Very vivid description right there. And it kind of echoes a lot of what we learned in their respective plea agreement paperwork, where we heard about the injury sustained by these 2 children and what Hildebrandt and Franke did to them. But then listen to what Clark says about Franke.
After being caught, Ms. Franke has shown considerable remorse, as evidenced by agreeing to serve consecutive prison terms and being willing to cooperate with the state against Ms. Hildebrandt. However, given the severity of the abuse she inflicted, consecutive terms are appropriate in this case.
And we can't forget that, as I mentioned, Ruby was offered a deal to testify against Jodi. This was, again, before Jodi pled guilty. Clark had mentioned at the time that for her participation, the state wouldn't take a position when she would be up for parole. So they were really creating this situation where she was the cooperating witness in this. Doesn't take away from what she did, but it kind of gives you a flavor of that statement. Now, Franke's attorney, Lamar Windward, made a statement saying when he first met Ruby Franke, she was somewhat defensive and indoctrinated. But then she realized what she had done and that she's ready to face the consequences of her actions, to take responsibility. And with that, we heard from Ruby Franke herself.
I would like to make a statement without any intent to change my stipulated sentence. For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me. I was led to believe that this world was an evil place, filled with cops who control, hospitals that injure, government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abused. My choice to believe and behave this paranoia culminated into criminal activity for which I stand before you today ready to take accountability. Jodi Hildebrandt was never my business partner, nor was I ever employed by her. I have never received wages from her or connections. Jodi was employed as my son's counselor in 2019, and in 2020 I paid her to be my mentor. It is important to me to demonstrate my remorse and regret without blame. I take full accountability for my choices, and it is my preference that I serve a prison sentence.
Again, very consistent with that statement that was released by her law firm before she pled guilty, blaming Jodi. It was interesting. She said that Jodi was never her business partner, started off as a counselor, paid to be her mentor. Now, from there, Franke actually thanked a number of people. She thanked the police who rescued her children. She thanked the medical professionals that treated her children. She even thanked her arresting officer. She said that when the cuffs were slapped on her, she realized the error of her ways. It kind of woke her up. She also apologized to her family and friends for bringing this cloud upon them, for not listening to their warnings, for turning her back on them. And then she focused on Kevin Franke, her estranged husband, who actually has filed for divorce.
Kevin, my husband of more than 23 years, you are the love of my life. I'm so sorry to leave to you to finish what we both started together. The ending of our marriage is a tragedy. And you are wrapped around my heart in a knot I'll never be able to undo. To my babies, over the past 4 years, I was in a deep undercurrent that led us to danger. I never went into darkness knowingly. I was so disoriented that I believed dark was light and light was wrong. I would do anything in this world for you. My willingness to sacrifice all for you was masterfully manipulated into something very ugly. I took from you all that was soft and safe and good. I took from you your mother. How terrifying this must have been for you. I will never stop crying. You're hurting your tender souls. You're so precious to me. I'm sorry.
Now, I'm also going to tell you that Law and Crime trial producer Kathy Russin, who was in that courtroom during the sentencing, she reported that Kevin Franke, who was in the courtroom as well, was reportedly crying. But from there, Franke said that she is ready to do what is necessary.
I am humbled and willing to serve a prison sentence as long as it takes to continue unraveling all of the misinformation I have believed and bought, swallowed, and acted out, and for my family to heal and for the community to heal. And I understand this is going to take time. I'm committed to continuing my learning until all of my toxic layers are shed, and I am ready to re-enter as a contributing member of our beautiful society.
Now, I will tell you, I have heard a lot of statements from defendants before they're officially sentenced, okay? In my opinion, to me, that felt to be one of the more genuine ones. Doesn't take away from what she did. Not at all. Doesn't take away the fact that she needs to be punished. But in my view, it does make me wonder if it gives more credence to the idea that she was manipulated by Jodi Hildebrandt, which we will get to in a minute. But here was the judge officially sentencing Ruby Franke.
The sentence will be that Ms. Franke serve 4 counts, 4 1 to 15-year sentences based on her convictions for 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. Again, they will be served consecutively pursuant to the parties' agreement.
So 4 sentences to be run one after the other for all 4 charges. And under Utah law, as I said, the judge cannot set the exact prison term. That's up to the Board of Pardons and Paroles. They have wide latitude, wide discretion. The maximum, though, our understanding under the law is that either Jodi or Ruby, the maximum they could serve is potentially 30 years in prison. Not sure that's what they'll ultimately get. That appears to be the maximum. There's also this issue of restitution for both Ruby and later on Jodi when she was sentenced. And it's about what they owe in terms of the costs for continuing rehabilitation and treatment for these kids that they abused. And we reported earlier on Sidebar that Jodi specifically, there was an injunction put in place that she couldn't sell any property off that could be used to cover those costs. The judge said in this sentencing hearing that that injunction remains in place. Prosecutors have indicated that they haven't prepared that restitution report yet, but that will come down the line. Hey, so we're going to get back to the Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt story in just a minute. But look, one of the reasons that we're able to bring you these stories, and this is an important story to talk about and analyze, the reason we're able to do it is all because of the great support we get from our amazing partners. And I just want to highlight one in particular right now, Morgan & Morgan. I always love talking about Morgan & Morgan. They're the largest personal injury law firm in the whole country. And one of the things they do so well is they make it easy for their clients in these very difficult and traumatic personal injury cases. You know how they do that? They have completely modernized the process from submitting your claim to uploading documents to talking to your whole legal team. They have 4,000 support staff, by the way. It can all be done from your smartphone. That's it. You can see if you have a case in just a few minutes. And look, the truth is, if you're hurt, you need to know how to protect your rights. You need to know whether your injury could be worth millions of dollars. If you're going to take on big insurance companies that sometimes lowball offers, you need a big law firm. And Morgan & Morgan, they don't settle for those lowball offers. No, they recently won verdicts of $6.8 million in New York, $12 million in Florida, and $26 million in Pennsylvania. Mind you, these are all higher than the highest insurance offers for these accidents. And get this, the fee is absolutely free unless you win. So to start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan, go to forthepeople.com/LC sidebar, click the link in the description and pinned in the comments. After Ruby Franke was officially sentenced, it was then time for Jodi Hildebrandt to be sentenced. And we heard once again from Eric Clark, the prosecutor. And while his statement regarding Jodi was very similar to Ruby, recounting the same kind of abuse that these children suffered, it felt extra pointed against Jodi Hildebrandt. You see, he said that while Franke, after being caught, showed remorse, he says Hildebrandt was the complete opposite.
After being caught, Ms. Hildebrandt has shown little to no remorse for her actions. In telephone conversations that will be provided in full to the Board of Pardons and Parole, and which she knew to be recorded, she's repeatedly claimed that she is the victim and the children are the perpetrators. She has gone so far as to say that the things said in this proceeding and covered by the media today will be full of lies. The combination of three factors make Ms. Hildebrandt a significant threat to the community. First, the severity of the abuse she caused to be inflicted on young children. Second, her attitude that everything she did was justified and that she is being wrongfully imprisoned. And third, her training as a therapist and aptitude for using online resources to convince others to follow her guidance.
We didn't know about those phone calls. That's very interesting. We don't know the substance of those, but that is very interesting to hear. The idea has always been that Jodi manipulated Franke into all of this, that Jodi is almost more of a danger to society than Ruby Franke. That's what Eric Clark's saying. And I will tell you, it seemed like the judge was kind of agreeing. Listen to what happened when Douglas Terry, who represents Hildebrandt, started speaking.
As is always the case in cases that come before courts, there are two sides to every case. My experience with Ms. Hildebrandt is that she is not the person that she has been portrayed to be. But having said that, she has accepted responsibility in this case.
Mr. Terry, you suggested that there are two sides to every case. I generally agree with you. Ms. Hildebrandt didn't make a statement to AP&P in the course of the pre-sentence investigation report.
Correct.
Why did she not make a statement?
She wanted to reserve her right to make a statement before the court today, and she has a brief statement that she wants to read, Your Honor.
You can hear the judge sort of saying, two sides. Strange she didn't provide a statement before. Is she really remorseful about what she did? What is her second side exactly? Well, I'll tell you what. We heard from Jodi Hildebrandt herself.
I sincerely love these children. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally. One of the reasons I did not go to trial is that I did not want them to emotionally relive the experience which would have been detrimental to them. My hope and prayer is that they will heal and move forward to have beautiful lives. I am willing to submit to what the state feels would be an appropriate amount of time served to make retribution as an outcome.
But the judge had some thoughts about that.
Does Ms. Hildebrandt recognize that it's her behavior that caused the harm to the children that she's referred to in her statement?
Your Honor, she recognizes that she was, along with Ms. Franke, that she made decisions with respect to the discipline of those children that were wrong, that caused harm to those children. She fully recognizes that and accepts responsibility for that.
Kind of hear Douglas Terry, Jodi Hildebrandt's attorney, kind of saying, well, it wasn't just Hildebrandt, it was Ruby and Jodi together. Now, here is what the judge ultimately decided with respect to Jodi Hildebrandt.
Ms. Hildebrandt, this circumstance is tragic. It's largely, of course, of your making. By any measure, your conduct in this case was disastrous for these children. Adults are supposed to protect children. Adults with specialized training in particular are supposed to protect children. You didn't do that in this case. In this case, you terrorized children, and the results have been tragic. It's what happened to these children, and your philosophy in dealing with them frankly seems detached from reality or any objective standard of decency or even common sense. And the court finds that it is appropriate that you serve a prison sentence. The court finds under the statute, Utah Code 76-3-401, that given the gravity and circumstances of the offenses, the number of victims, and the history and character and needs of the defendant, that consecutive sentences are appropriate. The court imposes 4 1 to 15 year sentences to be again served consecutively for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse.
Yeah, some of that commentary was very different than what he said to Ruby Franke. It was a lot harsher directed towards Jodi Hildebrandt, really focusing on the fact that she had a responsibility, she had a training that almost made it worse. And he sentenced her to the exact same thing as Ruby Franke, 4 consecutive terms of 1 to 15 years in prison for each charge. But the drama did not end there. No. After the sentencing, the attorneys and a special guest made appearances outside the courthouse. Listen to the very sharp words from prosecutor Eric Clark.
The abuse was horrific, and it would have been apparent to anybody that would have seen the kids that something was wrong here.
Is this some of the worst child abuse you've seen in your career?
Yes, and not just in my career, but in our office's career, in our institutional memory, this is one of the worst child abuse cases we've seen. I hope that Jodi does serve more. I think that would only be fair. I think that Ruby should serve. So the sentence that they got is basically 4 to 30 years today, right? The 4 1-year minimum stat, and then in Utah you're capped at 30 years. I think that a 4-year minimum for Ruby's actions are entirely appropriate. I hope that Jodi serves more time than that, and I hope that she isn't out of prison until everybody is completely confident that she's no longer a risk. And to get there, she's going to have to acknowledge that she has done wrong, and that you can't use religion as a means to justify your crazy behavior.
And Ruby Franke's lawyer seemed to disagree.
The prosecution said this is the worst child abuse case their office has ever seen. What's it like on the other side of that?
I don't think it's the worst.
I mean, he's representing a client who just pled guilty to aggravated child abuse and hopes she gets out one day. What's he going to say? That it's the worst child abuse he's ever seen? No, not surprising. But Hildebrandt's attorney, Douglas Terry, he faced some tough questions from reporters.
Her home was essentially likened to a concentration camp. How did she square that? How did she walk around living in this community while there's a house of horrors?
I'm not prepared to respond to that. That's an allegation that I heard for the first time today. I mean, that's a characterization by the prosecutors, which again is no surprise. But that's from their perspective.
You don't feel that's an accurate description?
I do not.
You disagree with that characterization? Has Ms. Hildebrandt, has she expressed remorse to you about what happened?
Many times. Many times.
What is her remorse? What is she sorry about?
That she didn't make different decisions and that would have resulted in the children being more protected.
Is she delusional?
I'm not going to respond.
And then, in a surprise twist, Adam Steed, who is a claimed victim of Jodi Hildebrandt, he has spoken out about her before. He actually took the microphone of our reporter on the ground, Sierra Gillespie, and he had some things to say about Jodi Hildebrandt.
Do you guys want to know who Jodi Hildebrandt is? Here, I'll answer your questions. He's her attorney. He can't answer. I fought against Jodi Hildebrandt with my family and everybody to stop this monster of a lady. And Jodi went after me. She went after me, destroyed my life in the craziest way you could ever think of possible. I almost fell over in the courtroom when I heard Jodi say that she loved those children. Jodi doesn't love children. Jodi's like Ted Bundy.
Wow. Emotional day, tough day, kind of puts a point at the end of a story that we have been focusing on since August. At one point, we thought there was going to be a trial, but there you have it. Jodi Hildebrandt, Ruby Franke behind bars for the foreseeable future after they committed these atrocious acts against two innocent young children. We will, of course, continue to monitor what happens next in this saga. That is all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, this has been a lengthy, but we got into it, didn't we? We delved into everything. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, I'm still here. I've been snacking. Been having some crackers and cheese.
Yeah, I think these videos are pretty much in depth with a little bit more of the case and everything.
Yeah, it's good how other people are exposing it as well, what went on. It's,
They said that they probably they got they said all they probably got to serve up to is 30 years in all.
yeah, but at least they're going to get a healthy sentence, though. And I hope that the children never ever see their parents, well, their mum or that other woman again. But we'll
I
just
hope
have
so
to see
too.
what happens. Yeah, because, oh my God, it's just, they maybe forgive their mother later on in life. You never know. And then it's up to them. But
It's like
my God.
like my sister Sabina, she went ahead and tried to take care of my mom, and then when she couldn't do it no more, then my sister Mary took care of her. But I'm like, I would never have done it. I didn't need somebody that sick, sadistic um, in the house. So I would like to see more into what all Hildebrandt tried to do to that guy.
Yeah, yeah. The two of them have been conniving, whatever, they're, my goodness, they were, they were like meant for each other for to do that. You know what I mean? It's crazy, absolute crazy.
Yeah. And then there's some of the stuff that Eddie agreed with. I mean, a kid's going to need a bed to sleep in, and plus he's a bigger boy. Well, you want to make when you go to discipline the kid, you don't discipline them like 7 months or all summer long or that kind of stuff. To me, that is just completely taking the thing away from the child. And she told him, "Oh, you're being self." What's that? What was that word she used? Because he was feeling sad because he won't have no computer, no internet,
Misery,
no.
misery. See, they always want to push the misery on people.
Yeah, but she was claiming him of being like just caring about yourself and not caring about,
Oh
you're just
yeah,
caring about yourself. You're not doing this, you're doing. So she
I
was
was.
already
He was wanting him
shifting
to
her
be
blame.
humble. Was that the word humble about his punishment or something he was getting?
No, she was saying you're being almost like self centered.
Oh, self-centered. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, like she was accusing him of being self centered, but that's a kid.
I know.
You gotta punish him till he gets, where he changes another age and everything. I feel so sorry for the older kids and everything, man.
Yeah. It's quite weird because children make mistakes, but you just often say it's a mistake, but if it's a real big mistake, that's when a child has to get disciplined. But the way they were getting disciplined, that was definitely boot camp, you know taking away all their stuff and no giving. When we were younger, we would get sent to our bed for being bad. But that boy, he didn't even have a bed to get sent to. It wasn't. He said he slept on a beanbag. Oh my
And then
God.
she's like, why didn't she make her own sandwich in the morning? She said she would do it, but 6-year-old, they really need a parent to do that for them at that age a lot of times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I couldn't make a sandwich at 6-year-old. It wasn't that good. You know what I mean?
It's like, get real. This lady was just so. No wonder. Basically, you fix it yourself or you starve.
Yeah, no wonder the kids were hungry. I seen a clip as well, and one of the kids had snuck into the kitchen and got some food, and she caught them. Well, he got disciplined for that, and you know what that was? He wasn't getting fed for another hour. He would have survived, yeah, but it's just like, why did he go and sneak food in the first place? Because he was starving, but knew he got caught, so he had to wait another hour. But pretty bad.
Yeah, this is pretty bad. And she wants to say it's discipline, but what was that when she held his head down in a sink full of water and then kept him from oxygen from breathing? Don't you call that child abuse?
Sure is. Sure is.
They put him in handcuffs and roping, like hog tying, kind of sort of like when you got handcuffs at the feet, got handcuffs at the hands, and then tying a rope connecting all the handcuffs together so he's up there on his belly and his legs are become like hog tied.
I know you wouldn't be able to move your muscles. That'd be like, oh my God, see the next day you'd be in absolute agony. You know what I mean? That'd be just, plus as well, poor children, they were weak when they never got fed. So, oh my God, it's just unbearable. And it
Oh
was
yeah,
all for YouTube, eh? All for YouTube.
yeah, and getting all that money.
Yeah, I know she admitted to making millions.
And then she said, well, that the people she had to get off of YouTube because of what they were hurting my kids. Excuse me, you were the ones hurting the kids. Everybody else was trying to help your kids.
Yeah, I know. See, that's narcissist behavior.
Yeah, it is. And for the older daughter to say, finally she gets arrested. Finally,
Yeah, I know.
the daughter no longer lived in the house. So there was actually a Sherry spelled with a Sherry and then a Sherry with Shari, huh?
Ah, right.
It's like okay.
Okie doke. Well,
And
that's been about 3 hours you've been on the night, darling. I'm going to have to head off. I'll drop down in a minute. I'll say good night
okay.
and goodbye. And
Good night.
I'll see if there's anybody in chat. Well, I'll say bye to Bucket. I don't know if Mel's still here. Maybe she's still watching.
Yeah,
But
just
it was
say
nice
one
speaking to
person.
you.
Yeah, just say one person.
Yeah.
I think when I watched that other video, and it played, she didn't know that I was gonna go and do the other stuff, because.
Yeah.
But I was glad that finally worked, and so I was able to go ahead and do that.
Yeah. It's 10 minutes past 9 in the evening, and
Well, I hope you
Bonnie's
have a
sleeping.
good. Oh, you see her right there? She said, "Love and prayers for you, Jackie, my sister."
Ah, same to you, Bucket. Love and prayers.
Well, I like this better
And
when somebody gets up in a box and communicates and says it too. So
yeah,
I like that a
right.
lot better.
But I'll chat to you later anyway. I'll drop you a wee WhatsApp.
Okay,
See how
well,
you're
lots of
getting
love,
on.
y'all, and thank y'all so much for coming. and supporting and being a part of this. And thanks
Yeah.
for Jackie for letting me know about this story too.
Yeah, I'm on top of things. Sometimes I get over it. There's so
Like you
many
do.
stories going on, and it's like, oh no, it gets quite, overwhelmed with what's going on. But we keep talking about it and keep putting it out there, and whatever we do on social media, if it's tweeting, well, no tweeting anymore, but Xing or on YouTube or any other social media to get these messages out for advocating for young children and safeguarding. We'll make a good group up and we'll get going on it. Okay, doc.
Yeah,
So
it did not let me put in a message that said I hope you do, because when Bucket List said when they all come up, when she goes, she's shy. I said I hope you do, and then an error occurred and it's not letting it take it. So well, I love
right.
y'all
So
bunches, and y'all remember to spend some quality time and do some things for yourself as well. Y'all deserve it.
yeah. Right. Take care then. Bye for now. Good night.
Bye for now. Good night. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Love and God bless. Well, thank you as well.